All right, what's going on? We're gonna get started in just a couple of seconds. I hope you're all having an amazing day because today is gonna be a fun day. So let me click on get go live and we gonna get started right now. What's going on, guys? Robert here with Throwback Thursday, right? As I told you yesterday, I have kind of like a content calendar where every day I have like a different theme that I want to be talking about. And the Thursday is now usually the Throwback Thursday or the Thoughtful Thursday. So on Thursdays, I want to just share a story with you that has kind of taught me some kind of life lesson, right? And what I'm going to be sharing with you today is probably my favorite story to share with people because it's just such a crazy story, and it's fun to listen to, and it was fun back then. At the moment, at it as it's happening, it wasn't really fun, but now looking back, it was a lot of fun. So basically, the story is about how we lost our car, or like my brother's car, in the ocean of Australia, specifically on Fraser Island, right? And this is a very great lesson about patience. So if you're watching the replay or if you're watching live, thank you for tuning in, guys. I highly appreciate it. If you're here, say hi. Leave a comment below where you're watching this from, and if you like something, just leave a comment. So basically, back in 2013, my brother was doing like a work and travel year in Australia. And for those that don't know me, I live in Hamburg, Germany. So Australia is a heck of a lot of time, flying like way there. So it was like a long journey basically. But he was traveling there for like a year, and was working there and traveling. And my mom and I decided to like not join him but visit him, and travel with him for like at least like 2 weeks. Like we were there 2 weeks. So our plan was to fly to Brisbane, and then with the Jeep my brother had at that time, drive down to Sydney, and then drive down to Melbourne. So in 2 weeks we wanted to drive down the East Coast basically. But the first 2 or 3 days, I think 2 days, we wanted to spend on Fraser Island, right? And if you have been in Australia and have been on Fraser Island, let me know, because Fraser Island was absolutely incredible. Just Google it and you will see that it's literally looking like heaven, right? So if you have a chance to go to Fraser Island, definitely make sure to do that. So basically, Fraser Island, how you can imagine it, like you can either drive with your own car if you have like a four-wheel drive and it is suitable to drive in the sand, or you need to like book a tour, or like a professional tour, or book like a Jeep that is able to drive there. But because my brother had like a four-wheel drive, and it was able to drive in the sand, we were good, right? So we got like a little metal thing, which we didn't really know what to do with it, but they told us, just take it with you guys, and you're going to need it basically, right? So we drove, on Fraser Island, and you need to drive through the sand and through the like not jungle, but through the trees and all that to get to the ferry, right? And with the ferry, you can go over the water to get on Fraser Island with your own car. So we did that, and I think before we even got on the ferry, we got stuck in the sand, right? So we thought about, all right, like we need to flatten our tires a little bit so we get more traction on the sand, so we are able to drive. So we took this little metal thing, right, which was especially made to flatten the tire a little bit. So we flattened the tire, and then we drove over to Fraser Island. So we had like 2 amazing days on Fraser Island, and how you need to imagine it is basically, here's the ocean, here's the sand, and here's like the jungle and the trees and all the seas and all that. So it was absolutely beautiful, and we had like a lot of great moments there, and just visited the island, saw a lot of different things, went surfing on the sand. So it was incredible, right? So now what you also have to imagine that while you're driving on the sand, right, there are a couple of like lakes going into the ocean, right? So you literally have to drive through the water, like through those little lakes, if you want to go straight. So, and it was one creek, the Ellie Creek, right? And this creek should supposed to be like the most beautiful creek, on Fraser Island, but it also is the most dangerous one, right? Because it has like the most not like it has the most water basically going into the ocean. I don't know what's the word for that is, but basically, after those 2 days, we had to drive back obviously and get to the beginning of the island to get onto the ferry. So now we were driving, through those little lakes, and everything went fine. But then we came across this Ellie Creek, and at that time, the water was rising, right? So the water was rising, and we thought about, all right, we were standing in front of the Ellie Creek, and we were thinking about, all right, we have two options now. Either we're gonna wait for like 2 hours until the water starts dropping again, and then we're gonna drive through that, or we just gonna basically close our eyes and say good luck and just drive through the water. And it was literally like 30 meters, I don't know, like 30 to 40 meters, I don't know how many feet that is in in the US, like metric basically, but we had quite a lot of distance to cover, right, in the water. So I was sitting in the back seat, and my brother and my mom was sitting in the front, and I was thinking like, I don't think this is a good idea. I don't think this is a good idea. But I didn't open my mouth. I didn't say anything, right? Because, I was like, guys, you are up front there. You can do whatever you want to. So I was just sitting there in the back, and I was worrying a little bit. I knew that this was not the good idea, like, to do that. But my mom was like, all right, let's just wait for like a good wave, and then let's just see when we can go. So basically we decided, let's wait and then let's go. So we drove through the water, and like halfway through everything went fine, and we noticed, right, there was a lot of water, splashing onto the car. And all of a sudden there was like a huge wave which covered the whole engine, right? And the water was not only water, but it also had a lot of stones in the water, right? So the whole, like, the wave covered the engine. And all of a sudden we were like in the like we had like 60 to 65% of the distance already through. So we were already able to see basically the coast, right, the other side. And because of that wave, the engine, got off. Like the electricity, broke. Nothing worked anymore. The engine didn't start anymore. And so basically, like the things to like wish the water like back and forth, right? They went crazy, and nothing worked anymore, right? So we literally were sitting inside of the ocean in the car, like in the middle of a flood, like not a flood, but the water started rising. So nothing worked anymore. We were sitting there, and like the first moment was just a moment of shock. So we were like, shit, what are we gonna do now, right? What are we gonna do now? We are literally sitting in the ocean in the car, and we can't move. So my brother, like, luckily we just drove past like a place where people could sleep, right? So my brother got out of the car, and the water wasn't that high that we weren't able to get out of the car, obviously, but my brother got out of the car and was running back to the place we just passed to get some help. And then my mom and I, we were sitting in the car. It was like complete silence, but only the waves that were hitting like against the car were able to be heard, right? So we were literally sitting, everything went silent. It's like all the time, right? And the car just started moving because of the waves that hit the car all the time. And the water started rising, and all of a sudden, like, the water came into the car, and we were like, shit, we gotta get out of the car right now, right? Because we can't do anything right now, and we need to get out of the car. So we got out of the car, got a couple of things from the car, and put them on the coast so they don't get wet. And then we were just waiting. And then, all of a sudden, my brother came running with like 16 backpackers, which were trying to help us, right? They were running towards the car, and then, they tried to push the car out of the water, pull the car out of the water, just drag it out. They tried anything to, get the car out of the water, but obviously they weren't able to, right? Because it was sinking deeper and deeper into the sand, and the water rose higher and higher. So, we were just sitting, like, standing there. Everybody was watching, how the car basically got sucked in by the ocean. And then luckily, there was like a ranger who was driving back and forth on the island. So basically his job was literally just driving back and forth and see that everything is, correct. Everything is going fine. And he had like a relatively big truck and had like a chain at the back of his truck. So, he pulled backwards and, tried to get the chain to the car. But the thing is that the chain was too short. The chain was too short, and, he wasn't able to get it to the car. So he had to, get another chain, put it into the one chain and then get the chain onto the car. Now, the problem was that the chain needed to be adjusted, or like need to be, yeah, like clicked under the car, right? So my brother had to dive under the car, under the water, to get that, chain hooked onto the car. So he literally was like diving 10 times. And it was so dramatic because like the waves were, going back and forth, and all the stones and rocks were inside of that water. And he was literally like diving 10 times under the car to get that chain hooked, right? And everybody was standing there. We were like 18 people just watching him, how he was, just trying it. And then he was able to do that. And then the ranger basically drove back and forth, and that's how, he started moving the car slowly and was able to pull it out, right? So he pulled it out of the water. The car was completely, totaled. It wasn't, like turning on anymore. Everything was wet because of the water, right? Nothing worked anymore. And now, before I continue with the story, the funny thing is that, by the time we were starting to drive, and, my mom thought like, what the hell? If we're gonna go down, I can at least just record everything, right? So my mom literally recorded everything, of how we got stuck into the water, how the wave, got over us, how we were sitting in the car, and the waves just started splashing against the car. How the water just rose like deeper, how the people came running, how the ranger towed us out of the water. And I just wanted to show you guys just a little bit how it looked, just so you have a clear picture of how it looked. So this is basically, all right, this is basically how it looked, right? Can you see this? So this is like the car. This is the car right there. That was in the water, and this is like the ranger with his truck that was trying to pull us out. And as you can see right here, like in the front, this is like all the rocks and all the stones that were there. And so basically, yeah, in the end, like I'm going to show you how it looks if you're sitting in a car stuck in the ocean and you can hear nothing but the waves splashing. So this is me sitting there. So you can literally just hear the waves splashing against the car, right? And that was just completely crazy. So now, after the car got towed out of the water, he, brought us to the next, station where we were able to sleep. Now, on the next day, we had to get someone from the actual land, like a tow truck from the land, to get on the island and tow us away, right? So the problem with that was that, once he got on the island, he, like, for the first, he charged us $600, 600 Australian dollars. Like, he charged $150 per hour, and he basically charged the way, like the time he got onto the island, the time he towed us away, and the time that he got home. Basically, the thing is that on the next day, as he like tried to tow us away, he came and he basically saw us being 3 people, and he told us like, guys, we only have 2 more seats in the car, and we have 3 people, right? And we were like, hold on a second, so what does that mean? And he told us like straight into our face, like, yeah, someone of you has to find another way to get to the beginning of the island, right? And we were like, well, all right, who's going, right? And then in the end, because my mom didn't understand that much English, she weren't able to speak, and it was the car of my brother, so he had to be like in the car here because he's the responsible one. So in the end, it was me who, had to cover a distance of like 70 or 80 kilometers, which is probably like, I don't know, 55 miles, 60 miles maybe, I don't know, something like that. And so basically it was like super, super hot. There were like dingoes, so like dogs that are kind of dangerous, right? And basically my mom gave me like water, a bottle of water, some food. She gave me a hat. She gave me like a stick to protect myself against the dingoes in case some dingo is going to follow me. And then she told me like, good luck, son, good luck. So basically I had to find a way how to get like onto the beginning of the island. And in the end, I was like tramping, with 3 different families with 3 different cars. And so I was like with a family that was from the Netherlands. One family was, or like a couple of people were from the US, and a couple of people were from Japan, I think. There was like a family from Japan. And all of them kind of like took me a little bit like further to the island, right? And then once I covered a lot of the distance, like the actual tow truck with my brother and my mom inside was driving past me, and they were like waving, and my mom was like tried to convince the guy who was towing them away to basically pick me up, because I was literally just walking there in the hot sand, right? And I was alone. And then she tried to convince him, but he said like, no, I can't do that, we don't have any more spots, right? And then what he did, at least, that he called the island police. Like he called the police on the island. And then in the end, like a couple of minutes later, like a very old police guy with his Jeep came driving by. And he stopped next to me, and he was like, are you the guy that is just running around alone here? And I'm like, yeah, please, can you pick me up? Right? So he picked me up, and we had like a very great conversation about the dangers on the island and what happened on the island. So he got me onto the island, like on the end of the island where I met my brother and my mom. So that was just an incredible journey and just an incredible experience, everything of it, like the experience of being stuck in the ocean, right? And just hearing the waves splashing against the car, and you are just literally just shaking in the car, and you don't know what to do because you can't just move it by yourself, right? And then tramping to the beginning of the island, like a crazy journey, a lot of things, and definitely something learned. Because like the moral of the story here is, what I have learned is that if there is a situation where you can either, try to go in straight right now, or wait for like 2 hours to be safe, think twice or even 3 times, or find a better way to go through, right? Because we could have waited for 2 hours, right? We could have waited for 2 hours, and we would have lost like 2 hours of our time, right? But in the end, we tried to go through, we took the risk, and we ended up, losing a whole day, losing my brother's car, paying a heck lot of money, right? So we lost like way more than 2 hours, right? So next time you have that kind of situation, really think about, whether it is worth it to save those 2 hours, or would you rather wait and, be on the safe side when it gets to, risking something like that. Now, on the positive side is that after we lost his car, we were able to rent like a camping van. So we didn't have to, like pull up the tent and, every single night, but we were able to sleep inside of that camping van, which was, more comfortable than, pulling up a tent and doing all that. So in the end, we continued our journey, right? We had a rough start in the journey, but we continued our journey with the camping van. It was absolutely incredible. So we had a great time. And this is a story that probably is going to be, sticking with me for the rest of my life. And I just love telling that story because, with the videos that we have also, it's just, people are going like crazy, like, what? No way, you got stuck in the ocean in Australia. That was definitely fun. So yeah, this is the moral of the story. Try to be patient when it comes to riskful situations, and really think twice and even 3 times before you commit to something, and maybe find a better way instead of just going through the water and through the ocean and getting stuck in the ocean. So with that said, I hope you enjoyed this little story, this Throwback Thursday basically. I just wanted to give a couple of shout outs for the people that have been hopping on. Kaylin, Stefan, Richie, what's going on? Timothy, Anthony. Anthony is saying, wow, amazing story. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Anthony. It was really, an incredible journey. And now looking back, I'm happy that it happened because it's really a great story to tell. And I just love telling that story. So with that said, I hope you enjoyed the Throwback Thursday. Let me know down in the comments, if you liked it or not. Give it a like, give it a love, give it a thumbs up, whatever you want to do to show your appreciation. And with that said, I hope you have a great day, and I'll talk to you soon. Cheers.